boring. If you're here, say hi. Let me know you're here. Let me know who you are. If you're new, I usually play for a few minutes at the beginning, partially to warm up and partially to let people kind of show up. It usually takes about 5-6 minutes to get things rolling here. So I'm gonna play something less boring. I've been working on doing videos all day. I've been working on a pedalboard and amp demo, and so I've been going, hey Tom, you know, that kind of thing. I haven't really been playing, so this stuff's all very boring. Unless you put the word backing track in. Unless you guys have a suggestion for something. Backing track. Soulful atmospheric backing track in A. Let's see what this is all about. Hopefully this sounds good. Does it sound good, guys? Does it sound any different? I'm using the dude pedal. Whoops. I'm also not hitting notes right. I'm also man, I just sound garbage over that tonight. Play through my pedal board. I have it mic'd from the video earlier. I just kind of left that instead of using the Iridium or letting it run through the vocal mic. So I don't know. This is the dude pedal. If I could suggest one pedal for a person to get, it's supposed to be like a Dumble, but I don't know. It's really easy to play with. It's pretty saturated. It seems like it's kind of fuzzy, but it's a lot easier for me to play through than a regular fuzz. I can also do good like if I needed a good 80s sound, because like a lot of the other stuff. There's the Archer. That's the revival drive. So I don't know. I'm just having fun with my pedals. We should probably talk about some guitar stuff here, but like I was saying, like I say every day, if there's anything you have questions about, please feel free to put it in the chat box so I know. I figured I'd talk a little bit more about pentatonic stuff. People really seem to like that. It's funny because we'll have like, you know, a handful of people at the live broadcast of this, whatever you call it, stream, and then I'll watch it over the course of the week, and it'll get, you know, 50, 70 more hours worth of people watching it. You know, So I know people are digging it. It just does make it easier if you guys have questions or commentary, though. So we've been doing the pentatonic stuff for the last few weeks, and there was a lesson that I did probably maybe even 10 years ago, one of the earlier YouTube ones I did, and it was called Cellmates. And this was an early attempt of mine to basically break up the fretboard. Sorry, I'm like tuning. Into ways that were easier for people to digest. And I thought we'd kind of take a look at some of those ideas. Right. So the first one, honestly, is this idea where we can just play this scale on one string. So say we're going to do, let's do G minor pentatonic today. Kind of random suggestion, right? So if I spell it out on one string, there's our root. That's the G on the first string. If you remember from last week, the notes in a minor pentatonic are root, minor third, and that 4-fret distance there, that's the interval of a minor third. Whole step to the 4th note, whole step to the 5th note, and then step and a half to the minor 7, and then there's another root up there. All right, and we can go minor 7 down here too. Now, if I was to just build the scale that we're all comfortable with here, just for context, this is our original box pattern, if this gives you kind of an idea of where we're starting. So root, minor third, 4, 5, minor 7, root, minor third, 4, 5, minor 7, root, minor third. And that's literally just that box pattern that we all kind of learn in the beginning. What we're doing instead of playing that is we're going to actually play it on one string at first. Now there's this Mick Goodrick book called The Art of Guitar. So I've got it over here somewhere. And that book is really great. It's a really well-loved resource. But one of the things that I always took away from it was this idea of playing one string at a time, you know, treating it like it's a one-string guitar, and making sure that you know the layout of a scale in one place. So let's grab, I'll do this out of my, oops, hang on a second here, out of my library just to have this here. Okay, just good old G minor single. All right, so here's just G minor. Hopefully you guys can hear this, right? So we're used to when we learn this stuff in the very beginning, really what we're doing is we're memorizing licks, right? When you break it up into one string, suddenly you have to be able to not only know where all the notes are, but think a little bit more melodically. It's kind of cool, right? So I know root, minor third, 4. I can do the bend I would normally do there, so 4 to 5. There's the root, minor 7. Alright, you come up with a million different ways of playing this sort of thing, right? But the idea is that you're breaking up the patterns that you know. And even when you're playing the regular scales, I'm actually able to transition all over the fretboard a lot easier because I know how to climb through it. So, next string, hey, we know this is minor 7 right here. Root. We just follow this, you know, minor 3rd, 4th. We're going to put a 5 up here. I should have made this bigger. All right, we got 5 and 4. All right, so there's the scale on that string. Hey, is the balance between the backing track and the guitar and my voice okay? Can you hear everything? Let me know one way or the other. The worst thing is to watch these things when I have to put the chapters in and realize I screwed up the audio. Okay, so with this, once again, I'll post links to the backing tracks below when I'm done. If I got an idea, root 3, 4, 5, I can play root 3, 4, 5. Alright, so that was the 4, bending up to the 5 on the first string. So I find the 4 and do the same thing right there. Right? Now I've got the ability to do anything I can do on one string. Whoops. I can play anywhere, even. Alright. It becomes a lot easier like that, right? So let's put the rest of these strings in here. So I got the root, open string. Here's the minor 3rd, 4, 5, minor 7, root, minor 3 out there. This could be the 5, minor 7, root, minor 3, 4, 5, and then minor 7, and so on. Right? And the idea is just as you work on this stuff, you start memorizing. If you put it in other keys, it becomes a lot easier too. But just take an idea that you know. Right? Maybe if you go, right, total like Albert King kind of. Right, that's 4, bending up to 5. Hey Bruce, minor 3 to the root. I can do it right there now, right? Or here's the 4. I could do it there. There's the open string. Or I could start, you know, I know root. And I know this is, I'm sorry, 4 to 5, minor 3rd. There's the root. So I know. I'm starting to fill in the whole fretboard this way. I know that the root here is the same as that note here, so 4 up to 5, minor 3rd, and instead of playing that root, play the octave. Right? And that's a big part of how I'm able to move around the fretboard. All right, so I'm gonna pause on that just for a second. If you guys have any questions, that's like really the simplest idea. And if you just map that out, you know, it becomes instantly useful. You do it in one key, you start seeing how things duplicate. Then you can kind of move around, right? And you have any lick that you know in a pentatonic scale. You can take a look at it, analyze it, say, hey, you know, I'm doing this right there, right? So that's the 4th, then up to the 5th, and then playing the 5 again here, and there's the minor 7. Right? So let's see. You can do it there. Kind of a weird version of it where I'm bending the first finger. Hey Charles. That's kind of a. I like that. So I'm just taking the 4 right there, bending it with the first finger, and then playing the 5 again, and then playing the minor 7 there. All right. So what you're seeing is this ability to synthesize any idea anywhere on the fretboard because you know what these notes are relative to each other. Now, if you've heard that 70 times in the last 6 weeks or last 6 classes of me doing this, it's because I literally say it every time. It's the idea here is to understand the fretboard well enough that you can understand what you're playing and move it anywhere, either in the same key for the music that you're playing or into other keys, or to break it down and turn it into raw material for some other licks that you might be playing. And that's really where your vocabulary starts developing, right? And we've talked about the fretboard in a lot of ways, right? We've talked about it. We built scales on 1 string at a time for major scales, right? We do the root. Oh, we start with the root patterns from Cage. Let me tune real quick. I'm sorry. All my guitars are due for a trip to the guitar doctor, I think. It's only so much maintenance I can pull off. So I'm going to kind of go through it. Let's do this for a second. Let's just kind of review some of the ways that we've talked about. Hey Dave, your fretboard here. All right, one of them is we did our caged root patterns in the very first one of these lessons. If you've studied with me, you've done it a million times. All right, and then we talked about whole step and half step distances between strings. All right, so a whole step on 1 string is just up 2 frets, a half step is up 1 fret. But if we're going from 1 string to the other so that we can play in a position, that distance is basically the span of your hand. If I'm playing A here, instead of B up 2 frets, B is going to be the first finger 3 frets down from there. All right, so we talked about that. And over the course of talking about that, we said, hey, you know what? Each of these strings are a 4th apart, 4 note names. So E, so we go E, F, G, A, B, C, D, from A to D, D, E, F, G, which is 4. But then when we get to the 3rd and the 2nd strings, which is G to B, G, A, B, we only have 3 notes in there. That's a major 3rd, right? And that's the reason why, like, when you tune your guitar, you have to go back a fret for those 2 strings and then go back up to the 5th fret. This guitar is not being my friend. So that's another kind of component of your fretboard that we've talked about. From that, we talked about building major scales, all right? Doing whole step, half step, whole, half. Once we were able to do it linearly up a string, we talked about doing it within each of these caged root patterns. Whole, half, whole, half, whole, half, whole, and so on. Once we did that, right, and we did it in all 5 positions, we talked about, hey, you know what, if you just take the 1st, 3rd, and 5th notes out of that, you've got a major triad. If you manipulate that triad, you get other chords. Lower the 3rd note, you get a minor. Lower the 3rd and the 5th, you get diminished. Play the 3rd and a sharp 5, you get an augmented, right? All of this stuff is built on what comes before it. And that's kind of the important thing to remember, is that if you kind of go through these things in order like this, everything that you do later on is reinforcing everything really that you've talked about to this point. From those chords, we talked about, you know, in scales, we talked about other scales, modes. You know, basically putting the half steps and whole steps between other places. And then from those scales, the diatonic scales, which were all the 7th note scales, we took 2 notes away and we made pentatonic scales. Right? Out of the minor sounds, we get rid of the 2nd and the 6th note. We get a minor pentatonic. Out of the major sounds, we get rid of the 4 and the 7. We get the major pentatonic. All right? And the understanding that even though these shapes are all kind of the same, they look similar to each other, you have to understand what note you're counting as the root in order to kind of derive the sound or the character of the scale out of that. Because any one of these diatonic scales that we play, right, that's B flat major. Those notes are also G minor, but the only way for it to sound like G minor is to be aware of the fact that your G minor shape is actually what we're kind of using as the framework to hang the sound. Right, G minor, same notes as right, B flat major, right, same notes as C Doran. Okay. What this is coming down to is even with the pentatonic stuff, you know, if we take this approach to understanding what we've got under our fingers, and just take a look at stuff you already know, a Hendrix solo, you know, anything, a Black Keys riff, you know, you can take a look at something like that, even like Iron Man by Black Sabbath. Right? I know it's root, minor 3, 4, 4, and then it goes minor 6, 5, and then 3, 3, 4, 4. So if I wanted to, I could take Iron Man. Let's go back to our G minor riff here. Let's see. 2, 3. Worst solo ever. But I took my Iron Man riff, I put it from the key of B into the key of G, I made a new melody out of it. All right. You know, they say knowledge is power. All right. And as guitar players, you know, there's a lot of these stereotypes about like how we learn stuff. You know, when I was a kid growing up, so I was born in 1970, I really learned how to play you know, everything kind of by rote. I had guitar magazines and, you know, tablature, right? And then I went to music school and I learned a bunch of theory. I never really connected the two. It was really hard for me to make music out of this pile of theory on one end and this pile of Scorpions and Dokken and Van Halen licks on the other side. It took me a long time. But the thing that that really helps me is the idea that I can look at something now and I understand what it is relative to itself, right? I know what those distances are between notes. I can look at a lick and I can kind of recognize what that shape is, and I can put it in other places, and I know where it duplicates itself all over the fretboard. And this is one of those things that really only comes from you know, experience. You know, you have to learn music. You have to learn all of this boring stuff. You also have to play music, and you have to apply this stuff, and you have to listen actively, and you have to analyze. It's all that sort of stuff that, you know, together makes you a good player. You know, I spent a lot of time as a kid just playing and didn't get anywhere. I spent a lot of time in school just going to school and not really playing enough. Didn't help me too much. And it wasn't until I was actually out playing gigs and getting beaten up by other band members over stupid stuff that I was doing that it started kind of coming together, you know. In the various places I've taught, whether it was my school, Premier Music, or the place before that, or even like at the high school I teach at now, I'm very aware of the fact that if you don't apply an idea to music and you don't actually have to put that music together well enough for you to be able to perform it in front of another person, it usually doesn't come together. Right? I remember stories of bands, local bands, oh, we're not going to play until we're ready to play. You're never ready to play, you know, whether it's a band or you're, you know, you just kind of have to get out there and take your lumps, right? And part of that is going through the process of learning this stuff and having it make sense to you, right? So I guess part of what I'm saying is that, you know, the stuff that we're doing right now, you know, you want to get this under your fingers to the point where you don't have to think about it, but then you also want to integrate it into stuff you're playing. If you're playing in a cover band, if you're doing a church gig, if you're just hanging out with your friends, take a look at the music that you're playing and see if you recognize any of this stuff in there. Pull it apart. You know, maybe just take one little idea and see what you can do with it. All right. And then maybe, you know, we live in the era of backing tracks and YouTube, all right? We also live in the era of online guitar lessons, all right? If I had a gig, there were a couple times last year I got called to do something like on a week's notice, and it was like 50 songs, and half the stuff was stuff I didn't know. And if it was something really complicated, I would consider it cheating, but it's not. I would just find someone teaching it on YouTube already. All right, and I'd look at a bunch of lessons because chances are the first one I would grab was always wrong. I could tell it was wrong, right? But it was quicker than me sitting and figuring it out. All right, but you can do that, get stuff under your fingers, start recognizing those sounds, and then the next thing becomes, you know, using your ears to try and figure out stuff on your own. You just start recognizing things. You'll hear stuff and go, "Oh, that sounds just like that, like Iron Man." The first two notes. Right, and then you kind of go from there. So, all right, so I'm going to stop yapping for a minute, give you guys a chance to ask questions, and then we're going to kind of go back to our pentatonic thing. For those of you guys who just joined us, it looks like a few people have come in. Here's where we're at in terms of talking about the fretboard. We just got a G minor. I never erased this actually from before. Erase that. Okay, so this is the G minor pentatonic scale. We have the normal pattern we normally play, and then we've got it going up and down each string, just as one. Now, the next element to this is we're gonna do this on two strings, right? And this kind of goes back to this thing I was talking about with the whole cellmates idea, right? So say I take, I'm gonna kind of color code these together right now. Minor 7, root, minor 3. So we're just looking at this. There's the root out there. On this string, we've got 4, 5, minor 7, root, minor 3, 4, 5 out there. Okay, I can take the pair, we'll move it up one string. Yeah, so then here we got, whoops, there's the root, minor 3rd. This will be cool because this will kind of show you just between these two, right? So we have the up on one string, minor 7, root, minor 3, 4, 5. So we can get this whole up here. All right, and then we can do the same thing on the second string, which we did. Right, but the nice thing is if we take it in adjoining strings, right, we get these little cells that duplicate all over the fretboard. I know this is 4, 5, minor 7, root. I can go 4, 5, minor 7, root, 4, 5, minor 7, root, just like we've been doing all of this stuff. Oops. I'm sorry. All right, so any place I play that, I can also replicate the idea. But even better, right, we can actually take these little cells on two strings and move them that way. So if I put the backing track back on, that's the first cell right there, and then right, they're gonna have different notes in there, so it's gonna work this differently. I could do that's 5, minor 7, root, 5, minor 7, root there, but this has the full minor 3rd. Here's the next box. Minor 7, root, minor 3, 4. Alright, being able to bend a whole step with your first finger is really helpful in this kind of play. Remember that when you bend, it's not your fingers, it's really your forearm. So if I play from here, see all of this back here moving? The finger itself doesn't really do much, it just holds the string. I can do all kinds of crazy bends. Alright, and it's not fingers, it's all about the forearm and the elbow. Right, but what that comes down to is that when I play a little box like this, there are notes like this minor 3 to the 4. It's kind of cool to be able to do that, so you can go. Alright, so instead of going, totally different sound. Alright, so the next box, root, minor, oops, sorry, root, minor 3rd, there's the 4 and the 5. That's a pretty cool little box. That's the beginning of this scale. Alright, you guys starting to see a pattern here? Besides me not staying in tune at all. I've got these ideas that I can play up the fretboard, and I'm learning it little chunks, these little cells. That's just those two strings on the first pair of strings, I guess. Now, the next two strings gives us a little bit of an issue because this is where the string spacing changes, right? It's the major third instead of the fourth between the strings. So on the third string, I've got the root open, there's the minor third, then here's the 4 and 5 from the previous set. So I'm going root, minor third. Oops. Let me do this without the music for a second. Root, minor third, 4, 5, which was my little root, minor third, 4, 5 idea here. Right, I can start seeing how that's going to work. Right. The next pair, minor third, 4, 5, minor 7. Right, that's actually up here. We didn't really talk about that one too much. So any lick you could play here. Same thing right there. Same idea because we know what those notes are and we know that that's the same pattern. The next batch, 4, 5, minor 7, 3. This is where this beginning part, 4, 5, minor 7, 3 repeats. Right, so we've got that lick. I kind of cheated and added another string there, but that's kind of what happens with this is you just start seeing all of this stuff piled on top of each other. The next one, 5, minor 7, root, and minor 3. Like, I don't remember. Layla, you know. That's that lick there, right? It's also here. So any lick that you know here, kind of an awful lick, but it works. All right, and then the next one after that, right, is this, right, which is minor 7, root, minor 3, 4, and that's where a lot of our blues licks kind of come from. Right, so any of those, same deal. And we just keep going with this. We're back to root, minor 3rd, 4, 5, which is right there. So anything that you play here, same thing here. Right down there. We can literally do this on all of the string sets. I'm not going to write them all out. But honestly, any lick that I know on those 2 strings, I can play anywhere. Making sense, guys? This is just yet one more way of kind of mapping things out, right? So we've got the unitar, the one string guitar. All right, and it's hard sometimes because you really have to think in these really big jumps. We like to move stepwise. Right? We like to move one note at a time because it's easy. It's like kind of walking around and feeling your way. But being able to play intervallically with big jumps, it's kind of a little bit more exciting, right? You know, you kind of listen to a melody when things are really stepwise and close together. It's kind of, you know, it's kind of soothing, but as soon as you know, the whole Eric Johnson, all that really angular playing is kind of dramatic because of the jumps between notes. You know, you're just not expecting it like that. So, coffee break. I just sit here and talk and talk and talk. All right. Anything that you can do single notes, you can do with double stops. All right, you know, anything that you can think of can be repeated around the fretboard. And then you've got open strings, you know. All right, so I'm in the key of G, and I've got that open G string. Little Joe Satriani here. I'm just using the open G string as a drone. I like the bluegrass slide or the country slide, so you get the open G. And I'm sliding into the G on this string. Oops. The next stop with this craziness is you can do 3 strings at a time. You're going to start asking, well, aren't we just playing whole scales at this point? And not really. So I'll think about no. All right, and it gives me this, you know, you're basically taking something that you know, and you're just rearranging it. And you're kind of forcing yourself into these little alleys. Next box. Last box. Right. If I take the next 3 strings, different, you know, different pattern shapes. Next 3. Alright, and that start on the D, right? Yeah. Once again, you're just recognizing where this stuff starts and ends. It's spreading it around. Right there I took this idea and I basically extended it to 3 notes per string. Right. So I'm playing, it's a little bit easier up here because everything's closer together. Root, minor third, 4 on the first string. So it's 15, 18, and 20, I guess. Play the same pattern on the next string down because this is the 5, minor 7, root. And you've got this thing where you've got the root here and here. There's a certain amount of repetition, 6 notes, and there's 5 scale tones. Even if you want to play just 3 notes on one string, that's easier. I just took the idea and I moved it through the scale, right? I took, so I've got my 3-note pattern and I added a 3rd note on the first string. And the same thing here. All right. All of this stuff, as you map out the fretboard, gets easier and easier and easier. But the hardest part in the very beginning is just doing it. You know, maybe just taking one key and one backing track like this and just trying to find, you know, just take one lick a day and see how you can find it all over the fretboard and how many different permutations. All right, and chances are, you know, you may not use 80% of what you figure out, but you'll find a couple things. And not only that, your brain will start kind of recognizing these patterns. And that's really what we want. We want your brains to see what is going on there. Okay, aside from my really sloppy playing, I've kind of talked about what I wanted to talk about. There's a couple other things I could possibly do, but I'm going to open it up for questions, comments. I'm actually very excited about... how's the guitar tone for you guys tonight? Some folks have showed up since the beginning when I talked to Tom about it. I'm actually miking my cabinet and running it through my interface. So you're getting the actual amp. So you're actually getting that going on. And then also you're hearing it through the vocal mic up there, which may be causing weird phasing things. I don't know. I won't until I listen back. But I'm working on a demo of my whole rig, the combination of this and the Iridium, and I never ever mic my speaker, because the reality is that in here, if I have a garbage truck, yeah, this is my garage. I've said this a million times, but I have literally a garage door. It's got a little bit of insulated panels on it, but if my dogs bark, you can hear it. If the guy across the street is cutting using a tile saw, you hear it. So it's kind of hard to clean this up. So I'll go through the sounds real quick. Here's just the clean sound on the bridge. There's the neck. Here's with the compressor. I like this compressor a lot. It's the Andy Wood woodshed compressor. Here's the J-Rocket Blue Note. The volume is low. Well, I could do something about that. I'm just afraid it's so easy to distort guitars on YouTube. Okay, so with it turned up a little bit, there's the clean sound. There's the compressor. Here's the blue note. I love this, like, if I put a little bit of the boost. That's without any delay either. Okay, so that's that one. The blue note, it's funny, as I got this and wired it up, I realized the blue note and the Archer kind of do the same thing, except for the Archer has, you know, it's got the clon. So it's gonna be more audible. Like, this is good for the neck position blues thing. All right, this one still sounds good, but this is really good for, you know, if I'm doing the, you'll actually hear everything better. All right, so I like that one a lot. Here's the this is the revival drive. Then here's the lead sound. That's the J-Rocket Dude. I like that a lot. My clean sound with the chorus. You know, all my 80s stuff I have to play. What's this guy here? Oh, and then I like that tremolo. All right, those are all out of the Mobius. They got all the fun stuff. Oh, with tremolo. I gotta make sure I turn that off. So if I put that backing track on, it's kind of hard to play accurately. And then my octave sound kind of bites. Just all the usual junk. I mean, I'm literally just kind of presetting a bunch of stuff with the hope that I'll actually get to be playing some gigs here pretty soon. But that's kind of where I'm at with this. And then typically on the gig that I would use this for, I'd use the Les Paul, or even maybe the Paul Reed Smith as a way to kind of like push everything harder as everything gets louder, you know. That's the compressor. If I go down, I actually had it with slap. Can't do that stuff anymore. So that's pretty much me. You guys got questions? Anyone? I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking maybe I should talk about seventh chords on Saturday. There's only really so far I want to push the fretboard stuff, but kind of talking like having something where we talk about the 4-note seventh chords might be a good way to cap this off for the time being. We also should talk about like harmonized major scales and figuring out keys, and there's some theory stuff. Let me ask you guys something, and you guys can put this in the comments or in the stream. If you're watching this on replay, you're gonna have to put it in the comments. But do you normally watch this live, or do you guys catch this on the replay? This is kind of, or do you do both sometimes? I'm real curious, partially because I a lot of times we'll do this, and like right now there's 7 people watching. But then I'll get like a couple hundred views over the course of the next like 7 to 10 days. So I know a lot of people are catching it later on. But if you can let me know when you're watching it, that would be cool, and that will also kind of help me kind of figure out like if I should kind of start adding extra resources that you can download and things like that. I guess I'll probably wrap it up. We're coming up on an hour. Would you guys be into like if we did a thing on like walking bass lines? Didn't realize. Okay. Ah. Oh. There it is. Yeah, I'm actually really happy with this compressor, Dave. It's funny because it just I mean it's a Sir compressor and it's my amp, which is also a Sir. But it gives me kind of I've used the Wamplers a lot. I've had the MXR, I've had the Barber Tone Press, I had the Boss. I'm trying to think what other I had a Keeley compressor. An Analog Man compressor a long time ago. And I could never find one that actually felt good to me. And then the Wampler ones were cool because they had the blend knob, so you can bring in your dry signal, which I like because you typically care for compressors without that because you kind of feel it. I don't know. I didn't like it. Like a Dynacomp. You know, I've had the Dynacomp too, which is basically like a Ross compressor, I guess. I hate the feel of playing through those. This is the first compressor I've ever owned that doesn't have a blend control that actually feels really good. I can play all kinds of stuff through this and not really have a problem. It just forces me to be super accurate because you really hear the pick attack. But it's just got this really sweet sound to it, you know. If I had to put a compressor on a second board, I would just buy a second one of these, I think. I think I like it that much. It's just easy to get a good sound out of, and it works really nicely with my amps. It basically just gives me a fatter version of what I'm listening to, right? So I like that one too. I forgot what I was going to say. I had something in mind before that, but anyway, this is kind of my live rig. The video that I did is mostly just what you're hearing, which is the mic'd speaker. But then at the end, I go through and I play, and I've got the line out of the Iridium, and I'll play like 2 bars. I'll play like a 4-bar phrase with a sound, and just kind of go between the mic and the Iridium, so you kind of hear how close or how not close it gets. And that's literally with the Iridium set clean to approximate my basic clean amp sound. And the pedals and it's funny because like what feels like I've got like a certain amount of delay and reverb here, which with it on sounds like it's as much as I really want, but then it gets lost. You know, so like when I'm like editing that video and I'm listening back to my amp, I'm like, that sounds like I don't have a delay on, but you can see in the video because I've got a view of the view of the pedal board that the delay is actually on. I'm talking about like, oh, here's a couple, you know, delay repeats, and you don't hear anything. So it just kind of doesn't reproduce sometimes. So I'm just trying to not make all these sounds too wet. But on the Iridium stuff, you get a little bit different response. You know, it'll hear things differently. So it's kind of a weird thing. It's a work in progress. I've got a MIDI set up for the Iridium, so eventually I can also add like each of these sounds will also have its own specific amp model and speaker cabinet in the Iridium. So like my crunchy sounds can be Marshalls, and my clean sounds can be Vox or Deluxe or whatever. I just haven't had time to mess with it. I don't even know if I really need to, because all these pedals are all set up to work good with one sound anyway. But it is kind of an interesting thing. I'm also having an issue with the Iridium where something's I don't know if I've got a bad cable or something's not working nicely with it, so I had to kind of cut that part of the video short. I'll worry about that later on though. So anyway, all right guys, I'm going to split. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you like the stuff that we're doing, hit the subscribe and the notification button. I do these typically Wednesday nights and Saturday mornings. If I have time, I might do some other early ones just to leave, like do them live during the day and kind of leave them there for you guys. I'm also thinking about doing some other kinds of lessons in the near future. I've got the Pedalboard demo, and then I've got a whole power chord thing I'm working on. But I'm also working on some longer, more involved lessons. So the video lessons are going to be less frequently. They're not going to be every week from now on, maybe just a couple times a month, but they're going to be bigger lessons with more content. YouTube seems to like that sort of thing. And then backing tracks, you know, all the usual stuff. But anyway, please subscribe. Please hit like on the video. All of those things help me out. Make sure you get the notification bell. That way you know when we do go live. And that's pretty much it. I thank you guys for hanging out, and I'll see you on Saturday or next week. Thanks a lot.